get by. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have here David Fussichen, and I'm going to introduce Dave in a second of Analytics8. Dave, I always like to point out other episodes people should check out of the podcast. And I was talking with my friend Chad Rubin, who started and sold e-commerce software company Skubana. His next company is working on his Prophecy. And we were talking, his interview is on the podcast, but we were talking about, he was working on a webinar for his company. And I basically said, hey, I just actually interviewed a webinar expert, Joel Irway, told him to check that episode out. And I also had Chris Madden, who is co-founder of Matchnode, which is an agency. And he talked all about what their company is doing in the NFT space called C-Bums, because I know nothing about NFTs. And so I made him give me a masterclass in the audience, a masterclass on how should companies or could they be using NFTs in their business? So that was a really great learning experience. So check that episode out. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. And at Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And how do we do that? We actually help you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a business to launch and run a podcast. Dave and I have known each other for a little while now, and Dave, hopefully you gather from me, like the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way to do that over the past decade than to profile the people and the companies I most admire on this planet and feature them on my podcast. So if you've thought about it, you should. If you have questions, you can go to rise25.com and email us. We're happy to answer anything. We've been podcasting for over a decade now, so we try and leave no stone unturned for someone. So feel free to email us. I'm excited. I have David Fussichen. I founded Analytics8 in the US in 2005. Analytics8 empowers executives with information they need to make good decisions fast. So you can check them out at Analytics8, the number 8.com. David and his partners sold the Australian division of the business to Accenture in 2019, and Analytics8 continues to really run in the US and UK and Europe with the same mission that they started with, which is unleashing the power of data for the organizations that hire them. So, Dave, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about, we'll get into detail. Tell us about Analytics8 and what you do.
Well, we're a data and analytics consulting company. I think it's pretty cool that we're called Analytics8. The name analytics, the word analytics, is in our name, and it's been there for about 20 years before people were talking about it. But just like you said, we help companies make better decisions with data. So we have like kind of three areas, and that'll kind of maybe ground it. So we have a strategy, we call them service lines, but it's like a business strategy. Where are you today? Where do you want to go into the future? And what data do you need to do it? And what systems you need and what people do you need around that data, right? And we used to have to do a whole lot of education about why that's important, but we don't really so much anymore. I don't think, I think most folks in business know how important data is for their future, and that, companies that use data in a smart way are going to win, and those that don't are not going to win. And so we work with companies to help them achieve their goals and their mission, and be the company and the organization that they want to be. So that strategy piece is kind of the first one, and that's the next piece, or the next service line, is we call it the data management service line. But that's all the infrastructure, the behind the scenes stuff, the big data. Nobody says big data anymore, but it's all the systems and how to manage and secure and make sure you get access in all the data that you need to make those decisions from whatever systems, internal, external, that you have. And then the third service line is the analytics service line. So that's the actual, what kind of reports, what kind of dashboards, and what kind of apps, and what kind of questions do you have? Whether it's like sales report from last month, or whether it's a really advanced machine learning model, whatever it is. That's kind of the analytics service, and then that feeds back into your strategy. So we help companies kind of like I said, advance their mission through the use of data. We help them transform themselves to be better.
Dave, who are ideal companies to work with you?
So we talk about an ideal customer profile, and for us, we really like working with customers that are kind of at the top end of the mid market. So we like working with anybody who has significant data needs, but we find that we match up really well with companies that are, maybe $1 billion companies, maybe $5 billion companies, 3,000, 5,000, maybe 10,000 employees, because we really have the scale to work with companies like that, and they have significant needs, but they're not so big that we can't be their strategic partner. So we have some very big clients, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, probably even Fortune 50 customers. But we're even though we're not unsubstantial, those companies are typically at the top levels going to be working with a company like an Accenture or a Deloitte or something like that, that can bring hundreds of consultants to bear. Right, we can bring dozens to bear if we need to. So we really like those that size, and we really don't have a specialization in any particular industry. Well, we do have expertise, and we do a lot of manufacturing. We do a lot of pharmaceutical, a lot of retail, but kind of around, there really is, we don't discriminate necessarily based on what industry anybody is in.
Tell me about, what are the problems people are coming to you with? I'm sure they're not like, Dave, we need more analytics. I'm sure they have some kind of issue that they need you to solve. What are some issues that they come to you, like, we need help?
Yeah. So sometimes it is just analytics, right? Sometimes our systems are so old and broken we can't do anything, right? And so there's a good deal of more strictly IT type work, but it is more often than not there are some business challenges. So a lot of it is around M&A, around integrating systems, but what they're actually trying to do, there's several areas. A big one, really in the last couple of years, is HR analytics. How do I find, how do I retain, how do I train, how do I maximize the team that I have, and we do that for some very large companies. To mention names like Exxon, for example, we help build a system to help them do that part of it. There's a lot of just kind of bread and butter sales, marketing, analytics, better understand our customers, better understand which products are selling, where are they selling. We do a lot of financial analytics, helping companies do modeling and understand kind of the trends, and where they can best deploy capital to make the best decisions they possibly can. And then we do probably the one where I think we probably have the most expertise in supply chain analytics. So that's a humongous issue now.
That's exploded even more in COVID.
Yeah,
COVID.
totally. Yeah. So how do I make my supply chains more robust, and how do I predict when shipments are going to be late? What am I going to do about that? What impact is that going to have to my business if I can't get my parts here? I can't get my products out to my customers or into the channel. There's a lot of companies now that are building new supply chains, as opposed to a lot of companies are doing more direct selling to their customers as opposed to through a third party. So there's a lot of work that a lot of companies are doing around that, and the analytics and the data infrastructure to do that that's what we help them with.
For the sales and marketing side and maybe other things, because I'm sure the companies are all using different types of software to currently pull data and things like that. Are you pretty software agnostic? Are there certain softwares you like to work with the companies coming with all different types of, I'm sure, software solutions that they're using?
Sure. So there's once you get to a certain size of company, there's probably dozens of really significant sources, and SAP and Salesforce and systems like this, that accounting systems, CRM systems that a lot of data is coming from. There's data coming from the internet, from Google and so on from understanding web traffic and that sort of thing. But once it kind of gets into the kind of the data ecosystem, we are agnostic, but we're not experts in everything, right? But we work with some of the big players. I like to tell, we had an incoming group of employees yesterday. I was telling them about, the cloud vendors, right? So they're like the suns that everything revolves around. So we work equally well with Microsoft or Google or Amazon, right? And everything works. Everybody, 95% plus of our clients are on the cloud or moving to the cloud. And then there's other software around that with Snowflake and Databricks and DB2 kind of on the, DBT on the back end. Those are the ones that come up all the time. On the front end, we're working with tools like Click and Tableau, Microsoft Power BI, Looker.
You've probably seen a little bit of everything at this point.
Yeah. We've seen it all, and that's one of the things we like to talk to our customers about. Is we have a slide up that's got like 1,000 logos on it. It's like all these data software that they could be using, and it just says in the middle, we help you cut through the noise, right? Everybody thinks that their software is a silver bullet. It probably isn't, but maybe plays a role. So we help companies kind of sort through that and make good decisions about what they're spending money on from a software perspective.
Yeah, and you're intimately familiar. I mean, you worked at with SAP for 3 years. I'd love to hear any lessons you learned, whether at MicroStrategy, which you worked, and also SAP.
So I worked at Business Objects, which was acquired by SAP. For some reason, LinkedIn won't put it. But it was Business Objects. So yeah, I worked for two software vendors. So I learned a ton. Those were great companies to work for and work with. Your question is like what lessons did I learn there?
Yeah, any lessons you learned from early on in your business career before starting Analytics8?
Well, here's something I don't know always tell people, but when I started my career in consulting, I was really excited. I still love consulting, but I was really excited about consulting. My plan was generally to go work with a bunch of great companies and like learn really awesome stuff that they're doing, and maybe pick one and kind of go into that area. Well, it has been much more my experience that clients or companies out there are not doing terribly awesome stuff, right? There's a lot of just basics, So you hear out in the news and you see like, this really advanced stuff, and there's advanced stuff going on for sure. But most companies, it's the basics that they need. So it's and maybe I'm a little bit dated here because I haven't been out in the field in quite a while, but getting somebody a sales report, that's not, a month old, sometimes is just amazing for a company. I think we're a little bit beyond that, but the basics are really what a lot
of the fundamentals is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the way it is with a lot of things, with sports or with businesses. You've got to have that solid foundation. And so we end up doing a lot of work, even with some very large, very sophisticated companies that we help them kind of get the basics in place, and from there, then they can do some amazing things.
Love it. I'd love to kind of talk more in depth on a company that you did some work with and help, so we can kind of understand deeper on what you do and how it works. One of the companies that you did some work with was Driven Brands.
Yeah. So Driven Brands, it's one of our favorite clients because we're doing so much with them. They've got I think it's 6 or 8 different brands. So a lot of people haven't heard of Driven Brands, but they may have heard of some of the brands, Mako, Meineke. They have a whole bunch of car washes. But what we do for them is, we have helped them kind of develop an overall data strategy. We've been working with them for a very long time, and it's kind of a neat story because we started very small and had some success and worked more and more. And at this point, we're working in, I don't think it's all of their divisions, but it's most of their divisions. And so kind of got that overall strategy, what do they need from a data perspective? But we've got pods deployed at different divisions and kind of at the headquarters of the infrastructure layer to kind of pull it all together so that they can really maximize what they're doing, across their kind of portfolios. They're not a private equity company, but they sort of are in the fact that they've got different brands and different divisions that are working, and they're trying to get them working together and as efficiently as possible. And so they've been great to work with, and the stuff that we're doing with them is helping them kind of same kind of stuff we were talking about before, understand their customers better, understand their sales better, understand supply chain, things like that. But it's kind of that bread and butter kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, but I'm curious, when you say starting small, what does that first initial project look like? And I don't know, maybe it's been a while and you don't remember, but if you do, I'd love to hear what they actually wanted to start with before they kind of grew into more services and other divisions.
Yeah, with Driven Brands, we really started with they had bought some new software and they just needed some help standing it up. So they bought and started implementing software called ClickView, and we sent a couple of folks out to help them get that installed and get that connected into their systems, and that was kind of how that started. We started building some reports and things like that, and as that goes on, you start getting our team start getting ideas. What you could do this, you could do that. What about this? And our consultants end up doing a really good job, and it kind of builds from there. And that's what we really like to do with our customers. Of course, sometimes we do get in and we do that data strategy, and we start big. We love it when we can do that, but a lot of times we do start small and kind of work our way in.
Now that makes sense, because I could see how it's kind of daunting to release a new software or something within the company. So having an expert, a team of experts do it for speed of implementation, not just speed of implementation, but like you are experts at it. So you'll be pointing out how they can use it, maybe ways they didn't even think of using it. And then they're saying, well, wow, if they know this, what else can they help us with?
Yeah, a key part of our marketing message used to be fast time to value, which we still love to offer really fast time to value, but we've started talking a lot more about like enduring value. So it's not just a quick fix, but we're setting our clients up for really long-term success, making sure that they have the infrastructure that's going to support not just the questions that they have today, but the questions they don't even know that they're going to have 2, 3, 5 years from now. So that's really neat to kind of get that trust and get those relationships with clients where we're able to be their partner in doing that. We really like to think of ourselves as equals with our clients. So they've got that business expertise, we've got expertise around data and the software around it, and we're kind of working together to achieve goals together, which in our clients is obviously our clients' goals.
You worked also with the company Cielo that helps people hire. What happened and what did you do there?
Yeah, so that was one where we kind of did get in and start big to start with. So that's a really cool company. They are in the business of helping other companies hire and retain talent. So that's a humongous topic now. And so they have grown since we even started working with them just a couple of years ago from they may have been just under 1,000 employees, and I think they're at 3,000 employees, maybe even more than that at this point. And so for them, they had a kind of some obsolete software that was kind of doing some of their data analytics work, and it served them okay when they were smaller. But as they grew and they had more and more needs, then you've got to have much more robust systems, faster response times, better security, integration with systems that they didn't have before. So that's kind of what we did. We work with them as to where they want to go from business, and they've got even bigger goals ahead of them when they are now to where they are now. They're interesting thing about them also is sort of that ideal customer profile for us. They've got private equity behind them to help them kind of achieve their goals, and from a private equity perspective, that's the money behind the growth and transformation. We like to be the data behind that growth and transformation. So they're on a growth path. They've got their private equity partner helping them. I believe it's Primera is a company behind them. But we're kind of the data and analytics company that's helped them kind of put that together. So we put move their infrastructure, into a really robust cloud-based system, put all the tools in place, made sure that the right staff has access to things, and that they're able to answer the questions that they have about. And another thing about them that's interesting, we're not only working for them, we're working for their clients, right? So they have the clients that are big corporations, and they need insights into their hiring and their retention and those things. So building that in a way that's secure and useful and built in a way that's going to scale to, not just one company, but they've got to kind of rinse and repeat for every one of their significant clients to be able to offer that value that they do.
Dave, you've grown tremendously since 2015 to now. So just give people a snapshot of, okay, what the business looked like in 2015, and then let's compare it to today with team leadership and how it's running now.
Yeah, that's been my journey, and it's been really fun. Like I said, we started in 2005, but if you want to start around 2015.
Oh, sorry, 2005. I meant 2005.
Oh,
yeah.
so you want to? I thought you were just kind of the last the last 7 years. So if we take it back to 2005, yeah, it's been really it's like I have a different job every couple of years, which is interesting. I've technically had the same job for this whole, but I do different stuff. I think the key thing has been along the way, filling in a really important gap or an important position, and taking stuff off of my plate. In the beginning, I did everything. I would directly work with some of our clients on a consulting perspective. I did all of our sales. I did all of our finance. I did all of our hiring. In 2006, I think we had about 5 employees. So I had 5 employees. On our longest serving employee, other than me, is our COO, Brian. Brian came in as a kind of a mid-level consultant, and it's been really fun seeing his career grow here. He's eminently capable, but his career has been 90% here. And it's been really fun.
Is that your current COO? Is that who you're referring to? Or?
Brian's our COO. Yep. But at different points, we brought in a head of sales, we brought in a head of finance, brought in somebody to do internal recruiting, who has since been promoted into our chief people officer. Marketing, somebody work on marketing, and up until, I don't know, for the first 5, 6, 7 years, like every single person reported to me, and you got to get that middle layer of management. And I used to describe that as like trying to do sculpture with boxing gloves, right? You don't have that fine touch right. Anymore. You've got very blunt tools. And at this point, we have multiple levels, right? You have to support. We'll surpass 200 employees this year, and so there's multiple levels. So you've got to make sure everyone is on the same page. So there's a lot of repetition. Here's our values, here's our vision, here's how we approach projects, here's what's important about how we work with our clients. So I do a lot of repeating things. So people hear it in different ways and make sure that the team is on track. And then I love it when I hear other people that are, other leaders within the company that are kind of echoing some of those themes, that we may talk about in a leadership meeting, right? And I see somebody doing a presentation maybe for their service line, talking about what we're doing with a particular practice area or something. It's like, well, and this relates to the company's vision and company's goals in this way. And kind of tie it all together. So I think that's something that's worked really well. But it's really been I think trust in the people that have gone in those positions. Let them do their job. So I don't think I'm a micromanager. I think I give people a pretty long leash and trust them to do the job. Kind of set the vision and kind of let them do it. They need my help, I'm there. And I think that's not just me. I think our whole leadership team has kind of that attitude, and I think it's worked really well. I think it makes for good careers for folks that come in. There's advancement opportunities, and we like to give them great, interesting work to do. We like them well and grow together.
When we look back in 2005 till now, Dave, I want to hear a little bit more about the timeline of the leadership team. because you really carved this out and created this from scratch. Who was some of the key leadership team now? Like, I'm sure maybe starting out, for example, maybe you didn't have a chief people officer, maybe that grew out of the human resources. Who were some of the key leadership team positions first, and then some that kind of grew later on?
I think an easy way for me to think about this is just to think about each person and their path through. So we'll start with Brian. So Brian's our chief operating officer. Brian was a consultant, got promoted to a consulting manager. At one point, he was in charge of our Chicago office, and then at one point, he was in charge of consulting generally. And then as we grew, it's just he was able to kind of take his career to the next level because we needed that. And then he and I have developed a very close, and we're friends too, because we've been working together so long. So that he kind of grew from that traditional just consultant, step. I would say the next kind of leader would maybe be our chief technology officer. So Patrick came in because he was running a company that we were working with. We we acquired his company, but it was two people, him and his partner. And so we brought him on board. And I know Patrick forever. Patrick worked in the product management for MicroStrategy, did a number of other positions, but one of the best technologists. I love working with him because we can get work done so fast. We think quickly. He can finish things off. Things I might get stuck on, he can finish them really quickly. He's a great technical leader and a great kind of a great strategy person. So he came on that way. At one point we had a head of sales. We don't have a head of sales now. That was actually my first significant leadership hire. But that's a little bit distributed at this point. So we have sales leadership among guys like Sean Teague and Bill Kaznak and Brian provides some leadership there as well. But that's a little bit decentralized. Our chief financial officer, that was probably the second position that we brought in. At the time, when we first brought somebody, it was just a bookkeeper. Somebody do QuickBooks, so I didn't have to do it all the time. Check things off, make sure invoices were going out and things like that. And that kind of grew to a controller position. And at this point, we've got a CFO. So a little bit of an extremely sad story, but a very close friend of mine who was our CFO passed away just about a year ago. A little bit more than a year ago, and so we were really without a CFO, and we were without a CFO for about 6 months. She passed away unexpectedly.
Sorry.
We were so that was such a key position that was why we used an external recruiter to find our new CFO, and John has been with us now just about a year. So Tracy actually passed away probably a year and a half ago, but John came in and has been amazing. So John's our newest member of the executive team, but that's a function that we needed pretty early on. And then one of my real pride points, Analytics8, is our marketing capabilities. So Tracy came on board about 11 years ago as a kind of a marketing person to help with email campaigns and trade shows and stuff like that. And she's grown up here too to a very capable marketing executive and really leading us. Something I'm really pretty proud about. We mostly get our own clients. We're not relying on vendors to bring us clients. So we've got kind of a multi-channel, multiple ways that we're bringing clients in, and multiple things. We've got social media, we've got a website, SEO, web newsletter, webinars, all kinds of things that she and her team have let out. So she grew up here too. And then Karen, our chief people officer, we brought her on. That was amazing. One of my favorite hire stories, because she was hiring people away. So she was recruiting our people away at her company before she was at Analytics8. She was at a company called Clarity, which, if you know about this industry, Clarity is a company that's pretty big in this, especially in Chicago. But they got acquired by Accenture a couple of years ago. But she worked for Clarity and she was recruiting people away. So I called her up and I asked her to stop recruiting our people. and then I offered her a job. And she was curious enough about how bold that was to meet me for lunch one day. she's I won. She came over here. She's been awesome, but she came over as our recruiter. Our first she was our first recruiter. She was our first really senior level recruiter, and has grown her role to be not just recruiting but HR, staffing, internal training, and so on. So she's grown up here over the last about 10 years, 8 or 9 years here as well. So it's just been, at each one of these junctures, it's like, what do we need? We need more people. I'm tired of paying recruiting fees. Let's hire a recruiter. I can't do all the sales anymore. Let's hire a head of sales. I can't do all the finance anymore. Let's hire someone to do finance. And so that's kind of been the path. Yeah, at this point, we're contemplating, well, do we need to beef up that executive team, anymore? Do we need a chief revenue officer, for example? And then I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention our managing directors. So we've got a group of managing directors who are maybe not C-level because there's not enough spots. We can't have 12 C-level folks for a company our size, but we do need senior leaders that are looking after parts of our business, whether it's one of those service lines like data strategy with Christina, or analytics with Kevin, or data management with Tony. So they're looking after those big picture. They help sell. They help kind of lead lead the direction as far as we're going there. And then our sales, or kind of our growth team, Sean and Bill and their teams are the ones that are they in the trenches, every day, telling prospects, turning prospects into clients. And then Dave, who's in charge of our customer success team, and that's kind of making sure that we're maximizing our relationships with our existing clients, and that's been a real success too. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's really helpful. And it's like people are kind of homegrown. They start and then they kind of, take on more and more responsibility until they're, kind of head or managing a division as themselves.
I think we did it the hard way, right? And the only way we could afford, right? I couldn't afford a CFO, so I could hire a bookkeeper, right? And then at some point we could hire a controller, right? Somebody who was a little bit more capable, right? And then our controller grew into a CFO, and that happened. But that's the cheap way to do it. It's cheap, and it takes a long time. I guess you're trading time for money, right? And that's where we were. So we're now in a fantastic spot because we have a good mix of most of the folks have been here for a long time, and have grown up here. But we've got folks, John, our CFO, came in with a wealth of experience from outside of Analytics8 and brought an amazing perspective. The other leader we have is Tony Evans. He's our consulting leader, and he brings he's been here about a year, and he brings enormous experience from outside. So we're at the point now where we can hire folks with a lot of experience, but growing it takes a long time, and you have to have a decades long view to do it. Otherwise, you have to have a bunch of money, and you hire someone that already has that experience.
Yeah, there's probably advantages and disadvantages. I imagine, like, people have been in the organization, like they live and breathe the culture, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit harder when you bring someone else in from that perspective. Is this going to be a culture fit or not? Someone who's been there for 9 years, they live and breathe the culture. So there's advantages I see to having homegrown too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like the two leaders the two senior level leaders that we brought in the last year or so, they fit so well with our culture. It's like they've been here for 10 years, and I think that was probably the most important aspect of why we hired them, because we knew that they would be amazing fits with who we are. And yeah.
Dave, I know you are growing a lot as a company from, like you said, all the marketing efforts and the referral efforts, because you've been servicing clients for almost a couple decades now. But one way people grow, I know that is on your roadmap, is through acquisitions, and
Right.
and it sounds like you've already kind of acquired some teams and companies as well. So I'm wondering, what do you look for in an acquisition? Who's good for, maybe someone's listening is like, you know what, this sounds good. Maybe I want to join forces with Analytics8. Who's an ideal acquisition for you?
Yeah, so that's relatively new for us. So we haven't done. We're talking to companies today, and we want to keep talking to more companies. But I think I mean the number one thing is that cultural fit. Make sure that they're going to be like us. You don't really get a sense until you talk to somebody whether that's going to be the case. But they've got to add some capability to us. We're looking for companies that can add capability. So whether it's enhancing something we're already doing, maybe they're really great with Snowflake, all right, maybe they really have a really great sales analytics practice or something like that. That's really additive to us. We're looking for companies that are, you know, uh, probably in the $10 million revenue zone. I think there's kind of different profiles of companies that are either maybe the owner is looking to retire or maybe a founder has taken a company as far as they really want to take it individually and really want to be part of a bigger team. Um, uh, and I think a company that wants to keep doing this, the founder or the owner wants to kind of keep doing what they're doing. They don't want to be absorbed into a giant, behemoth of a company, and they don't want to become a team, add on to some company that's focus isn't data and analytics. So it's going to be a company that's really very focused on data and analytics, some aspect of it, and they want to work with a team that's going to be like them and let them do what they're doing at a bigger, better, faster level.
Yeah.
Our objective, and we may never get there, but this is what we're looking for far out, is we want to be the premier independent data consulting company in the United States and UK. So I think that's far away, but it may not be that far away because that's not like any place where there is a clear leader. And I don't think we're going to get there unless we do acquisitions. So it's something that's new to us, and we're trying to we're flexing that muscle and learning about it as we're going through discussions and meetings and getting out there in the marketplace. But check back here in a few months, and I think we can maybe talk about some successes perhaps in that area.
Nice. Dave, I have one last question. Before I ask it, I just want to thank you for sharing your stories, your time, and I want to encourage people to go to analytics8.com to learn more about what they're working on and what they're doing. You can check out more episodes of Inspired Insider and Rise 25. I know for you, Dave, culture is really important, and we are talking before we hit record of you have a company summit coming up. So whenever you're listening, maybe, so I'd love to hear about why you do that and what you do at the company summit, because it is a lot of time, energy, and money dedicated to you're flying people in, people are not working, so I'd love to hear why you do the company summit and what goes on with the company summit.
Yeah, so I guess that started back when we were about maybe 6 people, and we had a Christmas party, and we invited, and everyone happened to be in Chicago, so everybody and their spouse came, and we went to Buca de Beppo, and we didn't
love that place.
I do too. I love it too much. That's why I never go there. But they put us in the side of a room or just a table with. I don't think all the spouses came. We were maybe like 8 or 9 people there. But that kind of turned into a tradition, and we had a Christmas party every year. And as we opened offices and we hired people outside of Chicago, we started flying people in, and that became a really great tradition. People loved it. It was an opportunity to meet everyone. Well, we got to a point where that was just prohibitively expensive, and it was really just a party. And so we didn't do it for a couple of years, and everyone really missed it. Whenever we get feedback from employees and say, we miss that Christmas party. Can we just do the Christmas party again? However, it doesn't have to be the same. Can we do it? We did regional ones for a while. And so we decided back in 2019 that we were going to do an all company summit. We're going to bring everybody in, not spouses this time, just company. We're going to do business stuff, a couple of days. We're going to do a riverboat cruise and do some team building, trust falls all day long. Kidding, we didn't do any trust falls, but that kind of that kind of stuff. Have some fun together, do some learning together, and the timing of that was just perfect. Everyone was just they loved it because they got to meet people that they work with on projects and maybe maybe saw a couple times. And even back then, we were still working remote a lot because companies weren't wanting to pay for travel as much, and even if you were traveling, you weren't seeing everybody. You were seeing just a couple of people. But that worked out perfect because that was just a couple of months before COVID. So we had all that good feeling going into COVID. And when we had a lockdown, there was a lot of great connections that people had. And I think it contributed quite a lot to our very high retention rate, high employee satisfaction rates, the fact that cohesion, working together, and it was immensely expensive. But when you think about it, like the cost of losing a couple of really good people, right? That's what it costs. So if we prevented a couple of really good people from leaving, it was worth it. And you don't really know. So there was no chance we were gonna do one in 2020, even though we had planned to do one when COVID hit. Everyone, okay, that's not happening. We're gonna do one in 2021. I don't know how COVID time kind of compresses things, but we had that couple of months in the summer of 2021 where we thought this thing was over, and we were planning to do one in 2021, and then whatever I think Delta came out then, and so we didn't do it. And so we decided this year we're going to do it. I mean, unless COVID shuts it down. At this point, I don't see any chance of COVID shutting it down. We're going to bring everybody in late September, and it's pretty wild because there's enough people that we're going to have like pro sound system, speakers, screens, and find a venue that can hold that many people. Which will be pretty wild and kind of intimidating. Everyone will know me, but I won't necessarily remember everybody's name. So we've got to get the name tags. But we're gonna the whole theme of it's going to be leadership. So we're bringing in external experts, doing some leadership training, different aspects of leadership. We're going to do some workshops and things like that around different areas of the business. We'll talk about career paths. We've got a mentoring program. We've got, for example, a women's group mentoring program, and they're going to get together and they're going to have, I'm super supportive of it, but I'm not allowed in. So, but they're gonna have a session, and sessions around some of the tech stuff, and I'm so excited and so looking forward to it. And I know most of our employees are, and we're aiming for 100% of attendance, but I think there'll be a few people here that just for whatever reason won't be able to make it. But
that's awesome.
And we're even flying our folks in from Europe for it.
Amazing. Dave, first of all, thank you. I appreciate it. Everyone check out analytics8.com and learn more, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.